97.7 the Q and 98 Gold. Welcome into Tuieville. It is Therapy Thursday once again, and we welcome in Dr. Nicki Monty. Good morning, Dr. Nicki. How are you?
Well, I am just fantastic.
That is wonderful to hear because we know that you wouldn't bologna sandwich us. That's how we say BS on the radio. That's how we say BS on the radio.
I like that. Did you make that up?
I think so. I don't know. You know how many times over the years I've been doing this that I thought I made something up and then I find out later I didn't? Here's how ridiculous I was. When I was younger, I thought I was the one that came up with live, love, laugh. I was so proud of myself the first time I said it. I saw a sign in a store. I'm like, wait, who? So that's been a thing? I was so proud of myself that I came up with that. Yeah. So, all right. So last week we talked about your TEDx talk, Kintsugi Fix, Heartbreak Saved My Life, Dr. Nicki Joy Monty. Hopefully you guys watched it. If you haven't, make sure you go and watch it. My question though is, because none of us would think this way, just from the title right there, Heartbreak Saved My Life. In what way can heartbreak actually be good for us? Because we wouldn't think that, especially, when you're going through it. So,
Yeah.
so how help us to navigate to that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little rear view mirror about that notion. I get it. However, we have these heartbreaks starting right away from childhood. And if you look back at your life, and if you are cogent enough to have this conversation right now, then you have a life to look back on. I'm not going to ask a 7-year-old, look back on your life and notice the scripts. But if you look back on your life, you'll see all the times, the little times and the big times that you had these heartbreaks. And what happens is that the heartbreaks begin to impact us in different ways. One of the favorite words that we have today, of course, is trauma. Trauma bonding, trauma recovery, I mean, it's very popular. Trauma's popular, triggers popular, whatever. There's a list that are in favor now and that will fall out of favor at some point, and something else will take their place. But and we do heartbreak is kind of a bump up against something traumatic, right? It may be a disappointment, a small disappointment, or it can be a huge loss. It can be everything from a divorce or a death, a breakup. Your first breakup, oh no, I'll never love again. You're like 11, and
right. But we do think it's the end of the world. When we go through that, we think it's the end of the world.
End of the world, or bullying. There's all forms of these things that are actually heartbreaking. So what does that mean? It means we come in with this little brave heart that we are. We're really brave as babies. And then, things start knocking us down. And it's just natural to life. And of course, then there's the complication of a challenged family, a world gone crazy, peer member crap. There's just all sorts of stuff.
I think too that nobody tells us young, or it doesn't sink in yet because it doesn't have a context. That when these things happen, they're a blip, sometimes a long blip, but a blip on your longer journey. Yes. And that you will be okay. And that, like in my faith, it's all things work together for good for those who believe. So this thing that looks like god awful, that we've now put labels are horrible and this is awful and sad and heartbreaking and all these like negatives, like we're hoping we can actually live through, will actually catapult us, change us, like you said in that Kintsugi method, like we're shattered, right? But it's all going to pull together into this even more beautiful vessel than it was
That's right.
beforehand.
And yeah, and I think Steve's question is well taken. What does that mean? Why would that be good? Well, first of all, what's special about being a human being, right? What is special about being a human being? We have an ability to, through our hearts, connect with other human beings. We have an ability to have compassion, to develop compassion. If it's natural to us, but then we shut it down. And a lot of people will have these hits and bumps and heartbreaks and heartaches, and their solution is, I'm shutting down. No one's getting in ever again. And that's dreadful. We're actually betraying ourselves when we do that, and we're hurting ourselves further. It's a temporary solution to a long-term problem, right? And so, or we go numb, or we drug and, or gamble, whatever our things. And so
you're trying to safeguard against vulnerability, but the vulnerability is where it's all at.
Vulnerability is where it is all at. It is the thing that energizes us, that allows us to move through the world, not robotically. We're all about the robots now.
Right.
And so we should all go towards the robots. I was saying, and I've said to you before that, it's a little off topic, but not really, that I like to watch TV. I like to watch pop culture things, and television is one of the best. And of course, Instagram and things like that now. But because they tell us where the world is. They tell us what's going to happen, actually. Movies, not as much, because it takes longer to make them. So by the time we get to the movie, the thing is probably already happening or just bursting at the seams. But for a long time, we had this spate of zombie things. And of course, this is about us losing our humanity and only getting back to this primordial beast thing that's about survival. And how do we survive? I'm going to take pieces out of you. I live through your blood. I live through your dismemberment, right? And that was all these zombie things. I went, well, we're going more and more towards, and then boom, AI in the way that it is now. And that was going on before AI was a big conversation. The internet was a conversation, but not the way AI is now. And we are heading into the zombie apocalypse. And it's here. It's not here as much as it will be in 10 years, but it's here. So this idea of letting your aches and experiences, your important life and death and growth and sorrow and fear and all the feels light you up and inform you so that you can connect better with yourself, with others, and with the world and with the divine, if that's part of your deal. All of that lighting up will let you grow yourself and know yourself, grow yourself, and allow yourself to be more connected in the world. And, it's my personal opinion that more connection is needed.
Can I tell you a story? Do we have time for this one? Okay. So, because this is going to be a good one. I was thinking about your TED Talk and all about the heartbreak and what comes from it, and how sometimes the heartbreak is so painful that we come right up against all we can take. And that over the course of my life, anyway, I'm no therapist or anything like that. I'm just me. But that has taught me the biggest lessons and made me the beautiful mess I would call myself now. And even more exciting, there's going to be more stuff to come. But I'll tell you the story. So I was adopted. We know that young. I started looking African American. The rabbis kind of came to my parents and said, you might want to come back. You might not be 100% Italian like you were told. Anyway, they decided to keep me, right? And it was a really hard thing because when I would go to school, I would look different. I didn't quite look like my parents, all this other stuff. So I kind of struggled with that, like growing up and all that stuff, trying to figure out your identity and all that stuff and why someone would give you away when you're young. So I had my stuff, right? And so, which was really hard when I was like 6, 7, 8, 9. I felt like kind of icky, right? Now I'm 18. I've like won the awards. I'm off in Israel. I do great things. I come back. I'm at Yeshiva University, Stern College for Women. I go home on Christmas break. Phone rings as my dad's bringing in groceries, so I get it. And it's a rabbi from Chicago who asked to speak to my dad, but I was on the other line and didn't hang up yet. And it turned out that they were calling my conversion to Judaism into question so that I had to do it all over again, which meant I had to go into the holy water naked. And 10 rabbis kind of had to make sure I was in the water and I would be reconverted. Conversation. I'm sitting on the other line trying to go, oh my God, I'm just, oh my Godding. And I'm not taking his name in vain. I'm crushed, like crushed. So my dad got off the phone and agreed that I was going to reconvert, while I'm home on break, and I'm going to go back to yeshiva. So I'm going to go back to college to still go on and become this teacher, right?
Remind me, your parents were what religion?
Jews.
They were Jewish also.
Jew. Yeah, but I was born Catholic.
Yeah.
So I had to be converted. Anyway, so now I'm like, wait, I'm asking my dad, who said I needed to do this? And oh my God. And he's like, well, we have to do this because if you have children, they won't be considered Jewish if you don't, and you won't be able to marry who you need to marry. And I'm like, okay, now I'm really mad because now I'm mad at God. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me that I fasted for every Yom Kippur, every holiday, didn't drive on the Sabbath, kept kosher, and all this stuff, spoke as the youngest president of a national conference for synagogue youth. I was the youngest president ever at that point, right? You've got to be kidding me that I'm not like Jewish enough and now I got to go through this thing again. Then I add side questions like, in the interim, can I eat a cheeseburger? Because I've never had one yet because it's not kosher. Can I eat shrimp? Can I go like hog wild, kind of like the Amish do for that year? Like, you know what I mean? And just kind of try everything out before I get reconverted. And the answer was no.
Oh.
So I reconverted. And when I tell you, it's hard for me to speak of all these years later. I was heartbroken beyond at God. I'm like, wait a second here. You said the converts were special, right? You said adopted people were like, all these things made no sense. I'm like, and then you managed to get 400,000 Jews through water, then close it up on a bunch of militant Egyptians, and you forgot that I converted okay. And this is all over a Frito, by the way. I forgot that part of the story. One of my witnesses to my conversion ate Fritos, which was not considered kosher enough by the other sector. So that nullified my conversion.
Oh, I'm
like, Fritos. So now we got me in a heightened, angry state where it was nuts. I can't hate God because I love him too much to hate him, but how could he do this to me? Right? My identity, am I Jewish? Am I not Jewish? Am I important? Am I not? You got to be kidding again that I'm not worthy of anything. I was this close to it all being over because I'm like, I did all this stuff in giving love and honor to God. And now where am I at? What in the world? What it wound up doing once I got my brain back together again, because nobody absolutely cared that you just took my identity and threw it up in the air and you didn't care where it fell. That's how I felt at the time. No one checked on what was going on up here for me. It was more important that I dunked and reconverted and did all the Pharisaic type of stuff, right? So that we could check it off a list somehow. Once I came to getting beyond the anger and heartbreak, and could think for a second in the fog. Then I realized, wait a second, God didn't call me up on the phone that night and question everything. He's God. He's on the throne. He knew it was going to be happening. And he probably felt really sad that it happened this way. He didn't do it. The group of, let's say, rabbis, and I think they really did it out of like following the rules, if you will. Ultimately, like fast forward through all the story and the gory details, I became a Christian 16 years later, right? I now have a love for people I did not have before because I know what it's like to on a Thursday night out of nowhere, get everything shaken up and come to the point where you were like considering maybe not living anymore. You know, like maybe you aren't worth it to even God. And then I'm like, okay, now that's the part of this beautiful girl at 58 who loves people and hates when the world does anything to even the littlest of people I don't know or I haven't met. It bothers me.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about the zombie apocalypse coming, if you will, like where we're just, as long as people who have gone through stuff like me and stuff like you can hang on and know that this is par for the course. This is how we grow. This is how I get to know Christ. Because if not, I'm a Jewish teacher for the rest of my life, right? Those bad, horrific, heartbreaking things that nearly cost me everything at that moment became clear, but it set me on a journey that was different than what I expected. And it was really, 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 really scary. I mean, I wrote a will because I was afraid I was going to be struck down dead when I opened the New Testament. I mean, we were not supposed to learn that kind of stuff, but I'm like, there's got to be more to this stuff than that. It sent me on the journey, and there was a lot of risk, which sounds funny when I say I wrote a will, but I was afraid. I really was afraid. I was not around any metal when I first opened the New Testament because I was sure I would get struck down.
Wow. Well,
so it was a real threat, however stupid it sounds now or light it sounds now. But look at all the love that
it sounds stupid or light. It's really it's a potent story. And
right?
And first of all, I love the vulnerability that you moved into while you were telling this story. Much as you tried not to, but
it feels as raw as it did then in some respects. But now I have the benefit of going, no. It was all good. Thank goodness someone ate the Frito.
Yes, of course. And this is one of the reasons I have. Well, this will turn a bunch of people away, but oh well. I have so much trouble with religion. Organized religion, because that kind of dogma that was laid on you had nothing to do with whatever God is, and it had nothing to do with you. And I don't know that God's sitting around being sad. I really go in the direction of the Jungian notion that is what Jung called the other face of God, that we are as important to God. Again, whatever you think God is, we're as important to that
being
energetic,
as
that energetic is to us, because we bring the emotion, we bring the humanity. God is not human. I don't think God's sitting around having feelings, because God's not human. So whatever God is, it's more of an eternal process that has no time, it has no form, it has no shape, it has no
limits.
I think I'll cause her all sorts of problems today.
Right.
That's people.
Right.
Trying to make themselves feel important and trying to find the rules that are going to make them feel safe. Oh, here's the rules. There was a Frito eater. Oh my God. Right. And it's kind of like, this isn't a great metaphor, but I kept thinking this. It's like the woman whose husband has an affair and they go and kill the mistress. The mistress isn't the point.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The person who had the affair is the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're aiming at the wrong person. God had nothing to do with that.
I think the intentions,
written.
right, but the intentions were good, I believe.
On the part of the rabbis?
I do.
Ugh.
I do.
Okay, well, that's where
but it's where they're at. It's where they're at in their, you know what I mean?
I just think that again, all of these protector of the word, first of all, they've interpreted the word the way they have interpreted the word. They're not really, followers of, they're just trying to make things make sense and trying to protect themselves. And you can't be, it's the anti-faith to me. What happened to you is the anti-faith. Now, you made some beautiful lemonade out of all of it. You did. It's what tasty lemonade.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing, what do we do with what happens to us in life? Not what happens to us in life, but what do we do with it? What's our spirit want? What's our, and all of that. And you have been a student of that from the very beginning. It's the pattern you were born into. Yeah. When you're, when there's an adoption, there's this is an early conversation in our psyche about where do I belong?
Right.
And what do I belong to? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing better, no place to better have that conversation than in any of the religions. Mm-hmm. I belong here. This is where I belong. Oh no, I had one of the most enlightened, fantastic, ridiculously screwed up people I ever knew, and spent a brief time with romantically, and a longer time as a great teacher, really, of mine. And he had been born. A Jew, was born a Jew, and he was, as a very young boy, I think he was about 4 years old or something, and he said, I'm going to spend my life looking for God. So he was born a Jew. He was an Orthodox Jew. And then he said, yeah. And so he converted. He was an Orthodox Catholic. And then he was like, And then he became a Rajneesh devotee. And so he had all these, with the orange robes and all that. Mm-hmm. And when I met him, he was a potpourri. He was a little of this, a little of that. It was like this wonderful creature. And the first time we were walking on a beach or something, and he looked up and he went, God, look at what God's done. And he was talking about the sky, and I was like, who is this? I've never heard anyone talk this way. So he was this boy, but he had put it all, and it was all about finding his place and his function. And it was interesting because I always say we die the way we've lived. And one day he was leading I wasn't there, but he was leading a meditation. He led a meditation. He sat down in a chair and he died. That was it. Mm-hmm. Now, did he have some cholesterol problems? I think he did. That's not the point.
Right.
He could have done that on the street. You know what I mean? The cholesterol could have, but no, he led a meditation, sat down, died. I was so mad at him for dying. But, it was quite, it was in his 50s, I think, or something. Yeah. But the point is that we make of these things what we will make of it. I remember when I decided to have, I never had any religious training, which I found to be a gift, so I could find my own path, right? Mm-hmm. And we were, I decided, because the matrilineal line is the feminine line that, as you know, goes down through the feminine. You're Jewish if you came from the mother. The Jews were very practical about everything. I love that. Don't eat pork, it'll kill you. Yeah, because it did back in the day before they just didn't catch up to the, anyway. So, and the mother, we know if it comes out of the mother, but if the father were not, we don't know what so it's got to go through the mother. Anything could happen. We don't know. So, So I'd never had any religious changing, and I was exploring my personal relationship to the feminine and trying to really embrace it, because my mother was very devoted to the masculine, let's put it that way. And so I decided to have a bat mitzvah. Like, I'm in my 50s at this point, right? So you're supposed to be 12.
Right.
So I was a little, better late than never. So anyway, I decided, and I didn't want to invite my mother, because I knew she was gonna make it. My teacher said, "So did you invite your mother?" I said, "My mother? No, of course not. I mean, she's gonna make it about her. She's gonna, say it's a wrong thing." And he said, "All right, some people say they want to heal." I was like, "What?" So I went, called my mother. I said, "Mom, I'm having a bat mitzvah." She said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "When is it?" And I told her. She said, "That's a bad date for me." I said, "Uh-huh." Well, but it's okay. I'm doing it then. She said, "Where are you having it?" I said, "In my garden." She said, "Does it count?" Is that
Does it count?
I said, "Because it's going to be a rabbi. It's going to count." Anyway, it's a long story. But it's that kind of attitude, What are you feeling in the middle of what you're doing, right? What are you feeling? What's your heart telling you? And that's one, to go back to the original question, that's one of the things that heartbreak announces. It announces the feelings that the heart is having. We call, in my training, my spiritual training, we call the heart the clear eye that sees. The clear
so that's
eye.
the Hamsa.
Huh?
That's
What?
the Hamsa.
Yes, that's the Hamsa. Yes. So that clear eye that sees. And
it's the one eye you taught okay.
So it has clarity. For instance, it's the fourth chakra, right? The area between the third chakra has the feelings. That's why, I feel nauseous when I go into this activity that reminds me of my mother, whatever it is, because it's where all the feelings live. And so there's the throat chakra and all the seven chakras, although there are more. But anyway, so the heart, but in the sense that we're talking about it, the heart, before it's clear, delivers all these experiences to us, allows us to accumulate and process. It's kind of like the bladder in a way, it processes all these feelings and all this garbage that goes in. And then through that, it then sees, if we let it, free of reactivity, it sees and knows truth. And the truth is that we are a compilation of all of our experiences. Our feeling experiences, our knowing experiences, our emotional experiences, our hurtful experiences, our joyful experiences, our darks and our lights. We're all of those things put together.
And they bounce from being right. And they bounce from being good to bad, like when we're trying to label them. Like I remember not even being able to think about Fritos for a long time. Like they were just one of those corn chips everybody ate, And now I remember when I was asked to speak at church, I brought the bag with me, and it was awkward in the car sitting with it.
You should give a TED Talk on and it should be called Fritos.
Fritos changed my life. There you go. Probably get them to sponsor it as well.
Right.
Speaking of which, we got to get to our commercial break. So it's Dr. Nicki did a TEDx talk. If you're just joining us, and you can find it on YouTube. You can go to the QR code right here on the screen if you want. Look for it. Dr. Nicki Joy Monty, Heartbreak Saved My Life, Kintsugi Fix. I'm going with Heartbreak Saved My Life. It's a little easier to spell. So and if you look up Dr. Nicki TEDx, you'll find it. So so do that. Watch it if you haven't, and comment and like it and all that good stuff.